All right, we're gonna get started. Welcome to our World Autism event. This is our first time doing this, really doing much at all during the month of April. Um, During this day and during Autism Acceptance Month in general, we hear a lot of voices from outside our community. So the goal for this event is to hold space to share our experiences and educate and advocate for our community. So today we're gonna share our experiences as autistic folks, hoping to cover a lot of the aspects of our experiences that might not get highlighted as much when folks talk about autism or the presentations of autism you might see in the media. We're covering topics like late diagnosis, intersectionality, so how the autistic experience might be different depending on your gender or your race. We're also covering the specific experience of being autistic in one of the busiest cities in the world and more about our organization and the members that make it up. Lastly, we're going to talk about some misconceptions that you might hear around autism or in the month of April and ways you can support our community during this time. My name is Nicole again. I am the president and founder of Autistic Adults New York City. We are an autistic-run organization that holds events and different programs for autistic people all around the tri-state area. Our primary focus is holding social events. We also do workshops. We have online resources on advocacy, independent living. We do a lot of creative events, and really just anything relevant to our community or things that our community members are interested in or important to them. I think one misconception about our organization that I hear from outsiders is that we exist to teach autistic people social skills or something like that. But our goal is to build community, to create a space that we could feel comfortable in and we can connect in and yeah, just make those connections and relationships that are really essential for everyone. Um, so yeah, I'm going to talk more about our organization later in the event, but our first topic for today is the question, what is autism? So yeah, it's a big question, big topic. Today we're not going to go through the DSM criteria of autism spectrum disorder, and like give you a rundown of what qualifies someone for an autism diagnosis, for two reasons. Myself and the people who are speaking at the event, we're not clinicians. We are speaking from a lived experience, and from like a community perspective. And two, the DSM like gives an outward portrayal of autism, and a lot of the language in the DSM is more on the pathologizing side in how it discusses autism and describes autism as a collection of deficits, which is not how I or a lot of autistic people feel reflects our experience. If you are really unfamiliar with autism and what it means to be autistic, I do recommend reading through Embrace Autism's um, resource, which gives a really good breakdown on autism in more like plain language. Um, so yeah, there are a lot of misconceptions around autism. I think one thing I want to highlight is that autism is not just about being like socially awkward. There's much more than the social component of autism. So it, it affects the way we communicate, how we develop relationships, but it can also impact our sensory experience, our experience with the world, impact our movements, our reliance on routines, how we engage with our interests. So you might meet one autistic person who goes to raves on a regular basis because they love the feeling of bass in their chests and flashing lights. And maybe if you get them started on something they're interested in, they will talk nonstop. You might also meet an autistic person who is normally pretty quiet, and wears noise canceling headphones when they're outside to avoid getting overstimulated, who has similar routine on a day-to-day basis, eats the same food, wears the same clothes. That also might be the same person depending on the day or the people they're around. Um, we also have like a variety of different needs as well. Some folks are more high support needs, and they may have a parent or a support worker who helps them on a day-to-day basis with tasks like showering, preparing meals, transportation. There are also folks like myself who are lower support needs, who don't need help with the basic needs of living, but might need support in other areas like accommodations at their job, including sensory supports, written instructions, or maybe in social situations, help with social cues or just clearer communication. There are autistic people who are non-speaking, who might use AAC or augmentative and alternative communication. Um, there are autistic people who are intellectually disabled, so their support needs might look different. Yeah, so autism is complex and it can present in many, many ways. And there are so many things that like aren't in the DSM that aren't portrayed as much when talking about autism. So, for example, like the concept of camouflaging or masking, which is something many of us learned growing up, which is when we conceal our autistic traits to fit in better. This leads to a lot of issues for us. It might have caused us to not get diagnosed at a younger age. Also, a higher percentage of us struggle with mental health issues like anxiety and depression. Um, and those of us who are adults might have been told by a mental health professional or discovered through our own research that we're autistic. But we might have struggles even getting a diagnosis because there are not a ton of clinicians who even know how to assess autism in adults or provide like an affordable diagnosis. So, because autism is complex and I'm just one autistic person, I wanted to welcome some members from our group to talk more about what autism means to them and their own autistic experience. Each person is speaking for themselves here and sharing things that are personal to them. There are also a wide spectrum of autistic experiences out there, so we're going to cover a portion of them today, and I invite you all to explore more about our community after. Um, I also am going to share this form in the chat. Um, Here we go. All right. So for those of you who are autistic and joining us, feel free to share like a sentence or two on what autism means to you. And after our speakers are finished, I'm going to read some responses from the form. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first speaker, who is Maddie. Feel free to unmute and everything.
Hi, thank you, Nicole. So I'm going to be reading a piece that I wrote for you all, specifically for this event. Here it goes. My mom told me a story about how when I was a baby, I'd fuss and cry anytime she tried to hold me, to the point where she was afraid to try. I guess you can say I've been unintentionally pushing people away since I was born. But as she changed my clothes carefully, she noticed a loose thread in the foot of my romper. It had been pressing in between my little toes, causing me to cry at the slightest movement. I've always been a sensitive person, been compared to the Princess and the Pea or Goldilocks, but it was okay because I was a girl. And camouflaged by my Asian heritage, no one thought much of it. Sure, I was labeled as shy or quiet, which has always bothered me because I never saw myself that way. I'm just observant and don't feel the need to fill a quiet space with chatter. When I was a child, I would get so excited at the idea of going to Disneyland, but as soon as I stepped foot into the amusement park, reality sank in and I broke down into a sobbing mess. This puzzled my parents, and they understood me to be ungrateful. What they didn't understand was that this was a meltdown brought on by sensory overload and overstimulation, and that I was a very autistic little girl. On the outside looking in, everyone seemed to have it figured out but me. Socializing felt like a foreign language that everyone else could speak and understand, and for some reason, I couldn't. For as observant as I was, I could never perfectly emulate what I saw in real life, in the movies, or on TV. I always felt like an alien come to Earth, learning how to be a person and trying to blend in with people, to not give myself away as being different or weird. But this never seemed to work because people have a way of sniffing you out, and I was always othered from a young age. It's given me a complex where I believe people will reject me like I've been rejected in the past because they might be able to tell that something is a little off. My mom clocked my difficulty with eye contact since I was a kid, but was still in denial when I first told her I think I might be autistic, which is fair because I had been in denial about being autistic too. I feel like there's a very narrow and outdated view of what autism is. You probably know what I'm talking about. But when two autistic women in my life consecutively came forward and peer-reviewed me as autistic, it intrigued me to the point of research, which sounds painstakingly obvious in retrospect. And that's precisely what this era of educating myself about autism has been, painstakingly obvious in retrospect. Suddenly, my entire life made sense. How unforgiving textures feel like my skin is burning, or how loud noises feel like my ears are bleeding, how the devil is always in the details. Autism is not a dirty word. It's a neurotype, just a type of brain that someone has. It's a difference in processing, senses included, and in communication. And differences are what makes us beautiful and interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Maddie. All right, I'm going to invite up our next speaker, who is Glenn. Go ahead.
Hello there. How should I start? And yes, it is very relatable, like having anxiety, especially speaking. Um, so where shall I start? I mean, basically, what autism is, you want the basics. It's basically it is a neurotypical. I mean, I'm sorry, not neurotypical. It's a neurological condition, basically. For those of us who are in the spectrum, and that affects how we perceive the world and how we process information and interpret information. And it basically it affects us in such a way that it like it's like weird, like different, that makes us different from who we who we would call neurotypicals. um and I'm not going to go too much into the into those basics. So to me, autism, it's basically it's a part of me. And I thought that it has it's a way of you know making me, setting me unique. And it's something I've learned to embrace, you know to, to be not just proud of, but also it has also taught me that we're all different. um and that we all actually, not just us autistic folks, but like every single one of us, regardless of whether we're neurotypical or neurodivergent or what have you. It teaches us that we all learn, and comprehend things in our own unique ways. um and In terms of where should I start here? In terms of intersectionality, as you know, I'm in the intersection of being not just disabled or autistic specifically, but also I'm also a person of color, specifically Asian. Also, I'm introverted. Um, it does like I, the way it's not. I would say the condition that intersectionality itself is not the challenge, but the challenge is the environment that I am in. That with the way I'm basically made or built, it's the environment that's what possesses the challenges. Um, Also, basically, I've learned that there are things that we cannot, there are things that we cannot change or control. Um, and autism is one of the stuff that has taught me that. And We just have to learn to, just to love ourselves and not let others judge us. Um, and yeah, basically that's it. That's what I have to share.
Thanks so much, Glenn. All right, next is Angelique.
Sorry, I just like took some Skittles in. Um, one second.
You're good.
Okay. So I'm Angelique, and like many late diagnosed autistic people, I always knew that I was different. I existed in almost all spaces as like the other, much like Maddie said. Some of it could be explained away by circumstance or environment, like if I was the only Black person or the only poor person or the only woman. And I was often able to objectively recognize the mistreatment that I received from other people, but I couldn't ignore the fact that I was the common denominator and that I kept having like the same kinds of issues in my life, much of which I didn't even recognize were connected. So finding out that I was autistic, which, side note, I only looked into a few years ago because I saw this random post on Facebook about signs of autism in adults that may have been missed in childhood. So Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month does work. But finding out it's given me so many answers to things that always just seemed like questions that just seemed out of my reach. Like why I cared so much about things that other people didn't seem to care about, and vice versa. Why I would get so close to people and then they would just suddenly stop speaking to me without any explanation. Why I felt intense rage when a pack of water bottles was squeaking in the backseat of my car when I was driving. Why, no matter how carefully I chose my words, I was still riddled with misinterpretations and misunderstandings. Why I would only need to use the bathroom when I was leaving somewhere or about to start something new. Why I talk to myself, but to other people. Why I was able to get a computer science degree, but still got lost even if I was using the GPS. Why it was so difficult for me to hug my kids or tell them that I loved them. Why, no matter how hard I tried, I was always late for all of those things that I really cared about. Why I did robot arms and the dino hands when I was in private. Why I was suddenly unable to speak out loud during intense conflicts. Why it took me so long to find something just to be disappointed whenever I ate somewhere new. Why I would burst into random song in the middle of problem solving or do little happy dances when I felt really good about something. Why people thought I was stuck up, standoffish, too quiet, too talkative, too negative, too silly, too literal, argumentative, when I was just existing as me. And I often wonder what my life would have amounted to if I had my diagnosis earlier, because being diagnosed has freed me from this burden of like this internalized nagging feeling of inadequacy. And it's given me a name for my experience. And the amount of relief that I've gotten and the acceptance that I now have for myself because of this new level of understanding about myself, that I'm not broken, that I'm not flawed, that I am valid. It's just had such a positive impact on my life. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ange. All right, so okay, so now we have Clinton who's going to speak, and he's in the room, so I'm just going to slide over.
Yeah, what's good? It's your boy Clint Bowman. Listen. I went to school, media and stuff like that. So a lot of the time, I spent like just in front of a microphone all the time. So don't mind me just going to a spiel. But what autism means to me, I'm gonna just keep it a buck 50 with you. I got diagnosed with autism in 2023. So, most of the time I was dealing with ADHD the whole time. And I think when I really go back in my head, a lot of the times, especially on this World Autism Day, you know what I mean? I think about all the experiences I had growing up. I think about all the trouble I got into, like being told by a bunch of old Trinidadian women that men don't belong in the kitchen. You know what I mean? Just loving to be in the kitchen, loving to bake, like video games, tech, everything. Just indulging in like my special interest. What autism means to me is essentially just living the best life that I can, understanding that my brain is different than almost everybody else's brain, and accepting that fact. And I know I have an advantage personally as a assigned male at birth, cisgender or autistic man out here. So it has its differences and it has its advantages, but at the same time, recognizing that I can be a effective role model to autistic children, especially at like 3 and 4 years old, because I work a lot with neurodivergent children and just showing those little children that, just because you on the autism spectrum doesn't necessarily mean you can't aspire to great things. That's about it for me.
All right. Thank you, Clinton.
Of course.
So I'm going to share a couple things in the form that got sent. So we have a good amount of responses. I'm just going to read a few off of here. Let's see. And thank you guys for submitting this. Let's see. From Nitty, autism means a more clear view on myself and not just what is wrong with me. What do I keep doing this? Autism allows me to not push myself too much and be happy with who I am and not need to fit in. I have another one. It means that I can think deeply about things and focus on tasks when I'm in the right mindset, but I have trouble being social or finding work or a lot of things that people are supposed to be good at. Another one says, feeling alienated from others because I tried so hard to be like others, but was never able to fully act like others. Joseph shared, autism is a way of being that gives us certain special abilities as well as certain deficits from which differ greatly from person to person, but still unites us in other ways. Wes says autism means why an existing outside the mean. Uh, Kiri says, I think think of autism as a gift. Once diagnosed, it completed understanding of oneself and more importantly, acceptance and freedom. Let's see. Lay shared, I'm so recently diagnosed. So to me, it means re-examining myself. Just because I don't fit into today's world effortlessly doesn't mean I'm wrong or failing. It just means my brain is a bit different. Um, Sarah says autism means having different neurological makeup and facing unique social, cognitive, emotional, and behavioral challenges as we navigate a world that wasn't designed for difference. It often also means possessing extraordinary strengths and talents that allow us to contribute and excel in unexpected ways. Uh, Ella says autism means experiencing the world differently from most of the people around me, which can help and hurt me. All right. Cool. Thank you guys for sharing those. Um, all right. So next, we're gonna have a little bit of talk about intersectionality. So I'm gonna welcome back Angelique to share.
Okay, no Skittles this time. Okay, so intersectionality, for those of you that aren't familiar with the term, it's the idea that multiple identities create an overlap and kind of an accumulation of discrimination and disadvantage. So, like, for example, like a gay Asian man may face more discrimination than a gay white woman. So, as it pertains to autism, I'm going to speak about gender and race, the intersections of those. And I'll start with gender. Excuse me. So people assigned female at birth are diagnosed at much lower rates than those assigned male. And when we are diagnosed, it tends to be later in adolescence or, like myself, even later in adulthood. So why is that? For one, it's primarily because of the outdated diagnostic criteria that's based on old research that's around like young white cisgender boys that a lot of providers are still using to assess people. Also, there are a lot of societal pressures around like AFAB people to be pleasant and demure and to sit still and be ladylike and just generally accommodate others first and sacrifice for the greater good, which results in a higher rate of masking, which is like an attempt to be autistic or non-autistic or to appear autistic. And then finally, due to like just general medical bias, femme identities tend to be dismissed and looked at under a lens of being an unreliable narrator and are often reduced to just anxiety or depressive diagnoses. And with race, much like the gendered bias, Race and culture-based discrimination also affects the diagnostic experience. We may also have higher levels of masking than other autistic groups because it's already a part of many cultures through like code switching and assimilation. Also, non-white people are often seen as aggressive and less compliant. So like meltdowns are viewed as violence, shutdowns are viewed as like attitude or a lack of manners. And as children, we're viewed as being disobedient or disrespectful. And so we tend to be punished more rather than referred for like mental health support. And then when we are referred, there are increased numbers of diagnoses in like behavioral disorders like oppositional defiant disorder. And lastly, there's just cultural nuance that's also a factor in the way that like we present. So for example, like stims or like repetitive behaviors are often missed as such because maybe it looks like repeating rap verses over and over again, or tapping acrylic nails, making beats on tables, guys brushing their waves over and over again, or picking their fro, random twerking out of nowhere, popping gum, sucking teeth, and other things that are deemed as ghetto. Also, the language that parents may use to describe early signs may be different, where a healthcare provider won't recognize them. So a Black or Hispanic parent might say, oh, my child doesn't listen, versus a white parent that may be more specific and say, oh, the child doesn't answer to their name. Also, there's a sign of autism where children are not as interested in their peers as others. And something like that may be missed in some Asian cultures due to parents like interpreting that as like shyness or modesty, which are qualities that are more valued. And lastly, there's also like stigma in certain cultures where developmental conditions are a white thing, and autistic behavior is viewed as something that can be disciplined or prayed away. So for my personal experience, when I go to the doctor for anything, I tend to feel dismissed, which I attribute to implicit bias, being that I'm Black and a woman. And I think I was undiagnosed as a child because a lot of my behavior was misinterpreted and signs were ignored. I actually have a report card from when I was 9, and I was going to this Upper East Side school where I was one of 5 Black kids and one of 2 that were poor. And I just want to read the notes from 2 separate periods that were a couple of months apart. And I think they kind of tell a story. So the first period, she says, Angelique, while sweet and amenable, does not appear to be fully involved in the life of the class. She sometimes raises her hand to offer a response, but mostly she seems to be in her own world. She often complains of not feeling well, as we discussed, which certainly affects her school performance. And then there was a little something after that. And then a couple months later, the second period, she talks about me being in a storytelling contest. And then she says, also, she seems to be more responsive in class most of the time. She's had trouble completing her homework assignments recently, and I'm eager to discuss her management of time with you. I'm glad to report that she rarely, if ever, complains of not feeling well anymore. Now, what's striking to me about that, beyond the missed signs like social difficulties, executive dysfunction, and repeated physical discomfort, it's so incredibly sad to me because I think it really captures a moment where I learned to mask more. I had chronic headaches and just a generally bad time at school, but the teacher thought I was like magically cured in a couple of months because I stopped complaining, as she put it. But I guess because I wasn't disrupting her class anymore, it didn't really matter. But lastly, I want to speak quickly about interoception, which interoception is a sense similar to like, sense of smell or touch that allows you to assess the signals that your body is sending your brain. So like knowing that you're hot or hungry or in pain or needing to use the bathroom, etc. So like a lot of autistic people, I have difficulties with this. And so based on stereotypes of femme identities, someone that is hypersensitive in this way, they're more likely to be labeled as dramatic or a crybaby, even though they're getting like very real signals from their body. But it also negatively impacts people like me that are hyposensitive. And I can give you a quick example of that. So when I was out skating last year, I fell and eventually I went to get it looked at, like my hand. And I told the intake nurse that I was autistic. And so I may not present in the way that she'd expect, but that I was in a lot of pain. And she was great. But then when I got in the back with the good old New York City ER residents, They really didn't seem to take me seriously. And it's probably because I wasn't crying or moaning or outwardly showing my pain in a traditional way. To be fair, it's a New York City ER and it was a Friday night. So, I mean, people were probably there that were more severe than me, but they were chatting a lot at the little station. So I think it had more to do with the fact that I was like sitting there pretty stoically, just enduring my pain. But eventually I made it to the x-rays and lo and behold, my wrist was broken. And so it's really frustrating that when I verbally express my experience, it's often not taken seriously until there's also some kind of like external data to prove it. And I find that that makes me request it more like, oh, give me an x-ray, give me an MRI, like give me all the radiation, because I feel like I won't be believed without it. So I'm at time, so I'm going to stop there. But thanks.
Thank you. All right, next we are going to talk about being autistic in New York City, and I'm going to welcome back Clinton for that.
So, as someone, I was born here. I was 1987, so it was a lot different for me, at least, being born out here. You know, when you think of autistic people, a lot of the time you think of people who can't handle loud noises and can't handle people a lot. I only really got to the point where I can't handle people as I got older, but that's just because people don't know how to act, but that's just me. Like the bus, I lived on a street where the bus ran all the time. I mean, it ran all the time. It ran very frequently. I love the train. You know, I live literally right outside of an elevated train line in South Brooklyn. So for me, I think I've always believed that being autistic in New York City is completely different to being autistic anywhere else because you kind of get used to just the nuances and the little bits and pieces that do come out of New York City. And being black in New York City is, you know, black autistic and a New Yorker is like its own individual thing because, you know, let's keep it above 50. You know, like I've been witness to like a bunch of non-black autistic people using the AAVE in African American English, and I use it on a regular basis. You know what I mean? Like that's just the way I speak because that's the way I'm from. You know, I'm from like Flatbush, so that's just the way I do it. But also not being able to get along with a lot of the people in my own community too was another issue because I'm not like everybody else. You know, like I kind of had to assimilate, especially as a late diagnosed. Like back then, I was undiagnosed when I was living out there. So it was like assimilation and just trying to like mask up and just like what is gonna help me survive. And a lot of it is a survival mindset, if I'm being very honest. You know, excuse me. Whew. Being out here is a survival mindset that you have to adopt. And, you know, I could say I'm fortunate for being low support needs, where my main problem is just the ADHD for the most part. But for somebody that is like medium and higher support needs, you know, it can be challenging. And especially even if you're lower support needs and you are not from here, like I give you a piece of advice. I mean, you gotta try and adapt to the situation that you're in. That is something that is, you know, a common thread with people on the spectrum. It's like it's really hard to adapt. But like for some of us, we have to, especially if you're not from here, because a lot of us would chew you out for just you coming here and trying to do the same things you did back where you came from. Also, you know, just recognizing that like a lot of the things that you used to be able to do, right? A lot of things you used to be able to do, you can't do no more. You can't do that anymore out here. Like you gotta just get with the vibes. And that's what kind of like gets people kind of turned off in a lot of ways. Even for me, I'm weird. I'm gonna be real with you. Like, you know, I'm a little weird. Listen, Angelique was just talking about like repeating rap lyrics and stuff. I'm sitting there spitting on the train while I'm listening to my music. I'm sitting there bobbing my head and I'm getting stared at from everybody on the train. You know, like there's gonna be times where you're gonna experience that. And that's okay because you just enjoying your life. It's not up to you to teach people that like oh, I'm safe or whatever the case may be. You minding your own business. You ain't worried about nobody else. You know what I mean? Like, so at the end of the day, I think that the uniqueness that makes a New Yorker, especially someone who was like born and raised here and had the green Metro card, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you know, you know. For those that came out here, and even if you old enough to have the paper passes that you got every month, then you know you went to the public schools out here. You ate at the Dominican bodega on the block and got yourself a bacon, egg, and cheese, salt, pepper, ketchup in Arizona in the morning. It's just a different experience. A good one too, because like you are strong. It breeds strength to be autistic and in New York City. You know what I mean? Especially if you lived there all your life. And that's on God.
Alrighty. Thank you, Clinton. Um, so now we're going to talk about not only being autistic in New York City, but our organization and the people that make up Autistic Adults NYC. So I mentioned in the beginning, but if you missed that section, hi, I'm Nicole, the president and founder of Autistic Adults NYC. We serve the autistic community in the New York City area through community building, which includes the hundreds of events we've hosted in just a few years of existence. Education, so mainly through workshops and online resources, and advocacy, like our Autistic Pride Day event, which is in June, and events like this one today. So more background on myself and the organization. I was diagnosed in the middle of grad school, actually. I moved here from Texas to go to NYU. And after about 6 months, I had a pretty big breakdown. I was doing academically really well, but the transition from like living in the suburbs in Texas to living in one of the most crazy and overwhelming spot in Bushwick, which for those curious, I lived right off the Myrtle Broadway stop. It was a lot. Um, and I've always struggled socially, and I knew there was more than just me being kind of awkward. But it took that massive meltdown and getting sent to a bunch of different mental health professionals to finally have someone suggest that I might be autistic. I did end up getting the assessment, and getting the diagnosis really opened up a ton of doors for me. I finally had a label for my experience, and I had so many questions that I've had for my whole life finally answered. I also started to connect with autistic people at NYU. And then after I graduated, I was seeking more of that community. So I went on Meetup and I went on Google, and I didn't find a ton of stuff out there for autistic adults. And I think COVID also just shut down a lot of in-person stuff that was happening. So I started Autistic Adults NYC in the summer of 2022 with just a very simple picnic at Central Park for autistic people. And I remember posting that event and having the first meeting and not even really knowing if anyone's going to show up. But we had like 20 or 30 people there. A ton of people kept coming up to me and saying, thank you for starting this. I've been looking for something like this for a while. We kept doing more events and it kept growing like crazy and crazy. And I was hearing these similar experiences or people who've had experiences with the autistic community only through like special ed classes or programs run by holistic people. And then after a year, we incorporated as a nonprofit. But we're still that very same grassroots organization. We have a very small team of a couple board members, around 20 or so volunteers, and one part-time staff person. All of our team members are people who are in our group, people who come to our social events, because I personally think that an organization like this, that's for the community, needs to be run by the community and reflect the community that it serves. And our volunteers, they all put in the work to host social events because they are coming to these social events and benefiting from our community. So yeah, we do a ton. You can check out our website, see what we've been up to. We do a lot of art stuff, plant walks. The top left, you can see we did a fitness session at a gym that had these like interactive video game screens. It was pretty fun. The bottom left is Disability Pride Parade. A couple weekends ago, we had a pet meetup where we just held up our cats to the camera, which was pretty fun. Um, But yeah, we do a ton. And instead of just talking about what we do, I want to give some of our members a chance to talk about what their experience has been like in the group. So first, Glenn, do you want to come back up?
All right. Um, yeah. So I first heard about this group. It was sort of like a word of mouth, but also some searches also. And I first started coming. Actually, my very first event with the group was the Autistic Pride Day in June, and that was in June of 2023. So that was my very first time. It was that was the first time I joined, and I started coming more often um to connect. And now I'm just like so glad that when I discovered that we have a community here, that we have a space, a circle where we could hold space, a safe space for those of us, people, those who are like me and face the same struggles that I do, like on a daily basis. And it's like I have a space where, I can relate with others. And yeah, it's just like and ever since I've just gotten I've found myself getting more and more involved, and it just the momentum just picked up right there. And I'm really like so glad and like so like grateful, and I owe my gratitude like to Nicole for founding this group. And it's just like it's like I just found my own tribe, basically put. And yeah, I just it just it, and it just it'll just pick up from here. Yeah.
Thank you, Glenn. All right, Angelique, if you want to come back up.
Yes, this time I only pressed the video once. I kept doing it like before multiple times. But yeah, just echoing what Glenn has said. AANYC has just been an amazing addition to my life. I was already a member of another autistic group that's for women, and which was my first known experience with like other autistic people, and that's still a great resource. But I think my time here in this group has been very different because I think having like a self-governed space where it's for the people before 2000, the FUBU experience, for us by us, um, and just having a more wide array of autistic people that more accurately, matches the world and is inclusive of like all genders and all support needs. It's been like really enriching, and it's honestly provided me with a better understanding of what it means to be autistic. I'm still new to this. I was only diagnosed a few years ago, so I'm still learning. And I think, having this space has just really opened up my eyes to the way that autism can present in different ways. Like they say, if you met one autistic person, you met one autistic person. So, yeah, it's been amazing. Um, Also, in a different way, I think seeing what Nicole has built here, just from like the idea of like a meetup to this full-fledged business, that just provides so much to this underserved community, it's beyond impressive. It's really inspiring, and it's just such a reminder to me, like every time I come to an event or every time I look and see something new on the website, just how much one person can literally make a difference in so many different lives. So yeah, that's my experience. Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys coming up here. All right, so uh, I want to talk a little bit to the holistic folks about like misconceptions and stuff that come up. Um, Especially this month, we have a lot of eyes in our community and a lot of folks outside our community who are talking about autism. The first two things, which I hope have become more obvious throughout the event, is that autism does not have a look, and autistic people don't hate everyone and want to be super isolated. Um, I think many of us who are late diagnosed hear this a lot when we disclose, like, oh, you don't look autistic though. And I think people say that as like an attempted compliment, but it's really like, what does that mean? What is autism supposed to look like? And I think also because of, maybe the way autism is portrayed in the media, or the fact that a lot of us just kind of socially withdraw because society is just not accommodating to people who are like different. Um, People assume we don't want to make friends or develop relationships or be social, when that's not the truth. We all do want to be social, like everyone. Many of us feel like our social life is lacking. We want to do more social stuff. I mean, that's why this group exists and why we try to advocate in general for more accommodating spaces, public spaces, institutions, museums, schools, all of that. Lastly, I think there's a ton of misconceptions around the existence of this month, how it started, how the autistic community feels about it. Autism Awareness Month and World Autism Day is still how, most people refer to April. And it comes from, origins from awareness campaigns that are have been run by autistic people. Historically, they might have stigmatized and fear-mongered against autism and autistic people. This is not, autism acceptance versus awareness. This is not like a universally agreed upon topic amongst autistic people. Some folks don't celebrate or recognize this day or month. Um, some of us have rebranded and reclaimed this month as a way to spread acceptance of autism and neurodiversity. Some believe that there's still more general awareness of autism that needs to be done. So you'll see, a mix of terms and symbols used to refer to autistic people. Many of us prefer the autism infinity symbol, which portrays that autism is a spectrum, over the puzzle piece, which is the origins were kind of representing like autistic people might be puzzling, or autism is like a mysterious condition, and it's still connected with like Autism Speaks and other organizations. A lot of us have wanted to disconnect from functioning terminology, like high functioning or low functioning, because it might feel dismissive or uncomfortable for people to refer to, how functioning they think you might be in society. So many of us use support labels, since that refers to what the autistic person needs. If you want more information on like background and terminology and stuff, I did link in the slideshow to our website, which goes into more detail. So how can y'all support us during this month? And how do you advocate for the autistic community? I think the biggest thing, if you take one thing out of this event today, is to listen to autistic voices. Um, there's a ton of organizations out there that might not have our best interests in mind or don't get input from the community they're serving. Um, if you are, whether that's for autistic people or disabled people, people of color, LGBTQ community, if you're wanting to support that community, you go to that community, you listen to their voices, you listen to organizations that have that community's input and support. So if you want to advocate for us, I have some resources linked on our Autism Acceptance Month page here, like graphics you want to use. If you want to send folks links about what autism is, have some stuff linked on there. Um, Also, you could donate to support us. Of course, there's a cost to running all of our programs. So, that might be renting spaces here in New York City, which is obviously very expensive. Buying or renting supplies, etc. But also costs that you might not think about, like storage space for all the supplies. We have a room of just boxes and boxes of board games and crafts and everything. Permit costs for outdoor events, office space, liability insurance, like the list goes on. We're at a pretty critical point right now where we have way more people interested in coming to our events than we have the space or capacity for, or a large enough team for. I'm sure, like, members in the chat, if you want to share, you could probably share how, like, we post the events and they fill up in like 2 minutes.
For real.
Yeah, like there's so many of y'all and so many people who haven't, signed up to our organization. There's a lot of support needed. So yeah, we need support to keep this organization running, keep it sustainable, keep it free for our members. Um, I, I started this organization selfishly because I wanted to make some friends. But this has gone far beyond that in a very short period of time, and it's benefited a ton of people. So I want to, see it continue to grow, be sustainable when I'm not here anymore. So please donate if you can. One-time donations are great. You can also donate monthly or annually, which is amazing because it allows us to, develop more and plan for more things in the future. And if you do donate on a regular basis and you are in our organization or you're a member, you can have access to perks like free merch and behind the scenes stuff, um, all of that. So you can check that out here. Um, you can also support us by volunteering. We're looking for many more volunteers. You can help out at events, help with our social media, however else you might think you're able to help. You can check out our volunteer page, which I don't have up. Can someone send the link to our volunteer page? Sheldon or Eric, I forgot to copy paste it. Also, if you want to support in different ways. Like if you have a box of art supplies sitting around that you think we might be able to use, or if you own space here in New York City that you want to let us use for like an event, you can reach out here. Thank you. I see someone sent the volunteer page. Um, but yeah, any support, really appreciate it. And that is it. So I do want to save a couple minutes if there's any questions or anything else anyone wants to share. Now is your chance. And you can put questions like in the chat. Could be about anything, questions about stuff we spoke about for any of the speakers or questions about the organization, all that stuff.
That means we did such a good job. There are no questions. Everything was
Yo.
clear and understanding.
Also, I'm gonna send the hold on. Okay, that's our email address. Oh, cool. Okay, so I will take your email. Thank you, Nicole. Oh, okay, cool. I see more stuff in the chat.
Talk.
I'm gonna copy. I see two emails in there. I'm gonna copy that down for later, and I will add you the mailing list and then reach out. I see from Kathy. Thank you. Discord. Yeah, we have a Discord for members. If you're a member and you go to Circle and you go to like the info hub, I think it's called, you'll see like links to join our Discord. Yeah, we have a Discord for members. It's like a group chat thing if you want to join. And yeah, I think I saw something earlier. Membership is open to anyone who's autistic, whether you're diagnosed officially or self-diagnosed, anyone who lives in like the tri-state area, so New York State, Connecticut, and New Jersey. Again, wish we can open up to people further, but uh, we already have capacity beyond capacity now, fortunately. Um, oh, cool. Thank you, Rachel. I will copy down your email. And yeah, sorry. I see another thing about joining the Discord. Yeah, it's just right now open up to people who like are like in our membership who come to events and stuff. So unfortunately, it's just like closed to tri-state area for the time being. But if we do kind of increase capacity and team size, we might open it up to more people in the future. Oh yes, we're also recording this. And it'll be posted on our blog within the next couple of days if you want to rewatch anything or send it to people. Also be on YouTube as well. Um, Oh, I see a comment about parents. Our members, it's just open to autistic folks themselves. For people who like have higher needs, who might need someone to come to an event who are like not speaking or just need help in general, you can they can come with like an aide or an interpreter, or like a family member or something. Yeah, we have, sorry, I forgot to mention that. We have a program called Pause, which is we have the events specifically for non-speaking folks or intellectually disabled folks. So those are very like kind of free form. We usually do like craft stuff and they're open to everyone. So yeah. We have more, public events like this planned too. So like we recently had an art exhibition. Those are open to the public. So if you're the parent of a member, can always come to those events. And yeah, sorry, we're gonna wrap up soon. We're not taking any other speakers for the time being, but if you have any last comments, you can put it in the chat. Yes, our website is autisticadultsnyc.org. Can someone throw that in the chat? Thank you, Sheldon. All right. Well, it is 7 o'clock. I'm going to send again, where is that? Did I send it?
Your email address?
Yeah. That is our email if you have any last questions. But yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate everyone's support and yeah, have a good rest of your evening. Goodbye, everyone.